was now trying to beg people to follow up on things. And before it was like, no, just all you need to do is send this much money, and it'll be so easy. Your money is gonna be flowing. And I was already thinking, I had a plan. I'm gonna, after about 3 years, I'm gonna be having so much money that I'll be able to move back home and all this stuff. So hi everyone, my name is Kudzie Mapiye, and on this channel I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a life lesson that I learned from losing thousands of dollars trying to invest back home in Zimbabwe. Now, I hope these life lessons can be helpful to someone or resonate with someone who has been in the same situation. So I'll just let you know like what happened with me and my story of investing in Zimbabwe. So, when I moved in Australia in 2008, I knew that I wanted to make Australia home. Like I wanted to move here permanently and set up life here. Like I was so sure about that. But there's something that is always at the back of your mind, and I think it exists for all people who have moved away from their home country, and it's always that longing to move back home. So I always had that longing, and I still have that longing to move back home. Even though Australia is great, I love my life in Australia, I always think like, is there a possibility to move back home and live a good life? So I kept thinking about that. And as for me, when I came to Australia, I had hopes of moving back home, but I never really thought about like starting businesses or building houses or all that kind of stuff. I just thought, yeah, I want to move back home. I hope it happens one day, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. So I had someone call me from Zimbabwe. And this is after I had just started earning a bit of money. Like I had settled a little bit in Australia. I'd been here for a few years. I started, making a little bit of money. So I had some money at my disposal. So someone called me from Zimbabwe and told me about this brilliant business opportunity that they sold me this business deal, this business opportunity, about invest this money into this particular industry. Guys, I have invested money in so many different industries, or not so many, but two main industries. I have invested money in farming. I have invested money in like elements of mining. and I laugh when I think of that, because I think, I struggled to keep my pot plants alive. I had this one pot plant on my desk at work, and that plant struggled to stay alive. And here I was thinking I could be a farmer. Like, I think it was so ridiculous of me to even think that was an idea. I have no passion, absolutely no passion in farming, absolutely zero passion in mining. But here I was being sold these business ideas of how I was going to be making money. And you know what happens like when someone sells you a business idea and you think, are you serious? So if I put in this amount of money, and you start calculating, and I get, and they were telling me, oh, and this is someone who had, these people had never been in these industries. Like they had no experience in these industries, but it was something like, oh, this is a booming thing right now. People are making lots of money doing this. You should really come in and invest in this. And there I was pouring money. I'm so glad that I didn't pour money that was out of reach for me. It was money that I knew I could afford, but still it was a lot of money, and I lost it. So what happened is, when these ideas are being sold to you, you're like, oh yes, of course I'm in, this sounds amazing. And then they're like, people are so engaged with you when before the money arrives, and you're like, you're gonna make this much money. People are making so much money, and they're telling you all these success stories. This person has just made this much. This person has managed to do this with their money and their profits and blah 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 blah. And here I was excited, sent the money, and from the point the money was sent, the communication changed. It went from zealous, excited, like you're gonna make a lot of money, to oh, things are really hard here, like I'm trying to make this thing move, blah blah blah. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I just got scammed. And it became like I was now trying to beg people to follow up on things. And before, it was like, no, just all you need to do is send this much money, and it'll be so easy. Your money is gonna be flowing. And I was already thinking, I had a plan. I'm gonna, after about 3 years, I'm gonna be having so much money that I'll be able to move back home and all this stuff. So I got scammed. All the times that I have tried to invest in Zimbabwe, I have gotten scammed, and I didn't get my return on investment. In some cases, there was a little bit of money that came back, but nowhere near as much as what was promised and what was sold to me as a dream. So the life lesson that I learned from this is, at first I was so angry and disappointed at the people who had sold me this dream. I'm like, these people have scammed me. They've taken my money. I haven't gotten anything back. And, I just wrote off the money. I'm like, what? I'm never going to get this money back. It's gone. But I learned this lesson. I said, what? What made me think that doing business with people who are actually not in this industry themselves is going to be successful? Like, and you're talking thousands of dollars. And sometimes you think, if you ask that person, have you ever had that amount of money before? Have you ever had like $10,000 before in your hand? Have you ever had to manage $10,000 at once? Like, someone gives you 10,000, and have you ever done that before? They'll probably tell you no. And when I look at like the different investments that I tried to do and the different people that I tried to deal with, I see that these people had zero experience. And I'm in the workforce, and I don't know anyone who has ever gotten like a job and they've got zero experience, and then they say, oh, okay, we trust that you're gonna do a good job. Like, if I was to go to a workplace and say to them, hey, I'm here to get the job of the finance manager. I want to be managing a budget of $3 billion and blah blah blah, and I tell them, what, I'm gonna do a good job, just trust me, I'm gonna do a good job. $3 billion, oh my goodness, this company is gonna make so much money, I'm gonna do this. And then they ask me, do you have any experience? Have you ever managed 1 million? Now you're talking 3 billion. And I say, no. Do you think I'm going to get that job? No, because those companies exercise due diligence. They're not going to be irresponsible and in such an investment, put someone in a position of so much power and managing so much money when they have zero experience. And I don't know why I thought that, I didn't exercise my due diligence. And I said to myself, what? I really need to release these people from this place that I've put them of resentment and, oh my goodness, you scammed me, you stole from me, because I didn't exercise my due diligence. These people had zero experience in the industries that I was trying to invest. These people had zero knowledge of the things that we're trying to do. It was all like third-party knowledge. I know this person who has done it. We're going to do this, but they had no results themselves that they had gotten from investing in those industries. And I hadn't done any research into what is actually required in those industries and what knowledge I need. No wonder the things failed. It was not only their fault, it was also my fault as the investor, and not like investing time to understand the business, not like, you know, getting people who actually had experience in the areas that I was trying to invest in. And no wonder I lost thousands of dollars. And I think for me, what was the turning point is there was this one time I had an uncle of mine who visited Australia from Zimbabwe. And, you know, it was back in those days where I was pouring money in the thousands, trying to invest in Zimbabwe. And you know what? I told him, like, he had successful businesses that he was running, and in some of these industries that I was trying to invest. And I told him, you know what, I'm also trying to invest in that industry. You know, I'm trying to get into farming. Oh, goodness me. Honestly, like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, you know, I was trying to get into farming. Thank goodness this uncle of mine had sense. He had sense to actually sit me down and say, you know what, stop what you're doing. You're going to lose so much money. Farming is a lot of work. He said, I'm always in the field myself. I get my hands dirty. It's something that you need to have your finger on the pulse. You need to know the industry. You need to understand, like, the ins and outs. You need to be on the ground. You need to know, like, what is going on. You cannot do farming remotely. Like, it's not that kind of business. He said, you know what, if you want to invest money, keep your money, keep it here in Australia and accumulate it, and when you're ready, go back home and do things yourself when you're on the ground. That man saved my life and my pockets, because I saw the big picture. I'm like, I have been investing in things I know nothing about. I have been trusting people who have no experience and expecting these brilliant results. And it just made me see that, you know what, due diligence is a must. No matter what business you're trying to get into, just because you've got money to invest doesn't mean a business is going to be successful. I have heard of people who have entrusted people to build houses for them. They have sent them thousands of dollars to build them a house, and these people have never managed a construction project in their lives. Some of these people are like teachers by profession, they are nurses by profession. They have never been construction people, yet they're being entrusted with all this money and expected to be a construction manager overnight. And then people cry foul when they go back home and there's no building to speak of. Due diligence. We need to exercise due diligence. And we also need to understand that when we talk to people, like, everyone has a price. Some of these monies that we're telling people we can invest gets people excited, not in our project, but just getting excited of the prospect of holding that amount of money for the first time, maybe in their lives. It's just like if someone like Bill Gates comes to me and says, hey, Kudzie, we want to build, I've got $20 million. You know, I want you to help me build a school. I'm going to tell Bill, look, okay, do you want upstairs? Do you want aircon? What do you want? What color buildings do you want? What kind of furniture? Yet I have never built a school in my life, but I'm excited about the idea of just having $20 million in my hands that I will sell him all types of dreams. And this is what happens when we invest and we don't do our due diligence. You know what I mean? We can't end up blaming the people who we entrust with a lot of money when they've never maybe managed that amount of money for themselves, let alone for someone else, and we expect success. So for me, I have learned that, you know, in anything that I do, I need to do research, I need to know the ins and outs, and I need to deal with people who have experience in the industry that I want to invest. And I think the best thing that I've ever done for myself was to stop pouring money where I haven't exercised due diligence. And in everything, just always deal with people that know what they're doing. And it is your responsibility to have the knowledge in the space that you want to invest in. And I know some people have, you know, damaged family relationships with people close to them who they have entrusted with money with certain projects to implement, and they have not been implemented. I just want to appeal to you to please just consider how inexperienced those people were, and also take responsibility for the lack of due diligence on your part, and you will see that, you know what, you probably would have done the same thing if someone had sold you another dream with your price, because everyone has a price. Everyone has a point where they'll be like, for this much of for this amount of money, yeah, I think I'll consider doing that. You know, there are people with some good characters who have disappointed their relatives overseas because they have entrusted them with money, but they got so excited about the prospect of the money that, you know, they started selling dreams, you know, and building these castles in the sky. But you know what? It's all about exercising our due diligence. And now, when with everything that I try and do, I try and research, I try and take 100% responsibility for the things that I invest in, for the things that I get involved in, and say, you know what, I have the responsibility. I can't blame it on someone to say this person scammed me, or, you know, this person has, you know, broken my trust. Yes, trust would have been broken, but you also need to own your part. And I have been scammed even from people who are not from Zimbabwe. I remember I got scammed once. Thank goodness I didn't actually get to the point of investing money, but I got scammed online. Actually, it was this this scam of investing money. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a pandemic. It was this whole Bitcoin thing, and I had always told myself, you know, I would never get scammed online, but the way it was packaged and everything looked so professional, and then, you know, things were happening so fast. People are like, oh, someone will call you in whatever, and then your phone rings, you answer, and then they're like, okay, so this is, you're gonna set up this account and blah 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 blah. And then they're like, and some sense knocked into my head, because I had prior experience of being scammed, like, you know, by trying to invest back home. So they said, okay, give us your card, give us your bank card details. And you know what I did? I actually had a bank card of mine that had expired, like of an account that I wasn't using, and I gave them that account. And they're like, okay, blah 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 blah, okay, so someone's gonna call you and blah 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 blah. And I remember at that time, I think it was $250 that I was supposed to put in this account, and I gave them the bank details, the card details of a card that was not in use. And then after that call, like, I had this hunch. I'm like, no, let me do more research. And then I found online that there was actually reports of this scam going, and people had been losing thousands of dollars. And I was like, oh my goodness, I almost got scammed. And it was about the same thing, due diligence. Like, you know, someone is trying to sell me this Bitcoin dream. I know nothing about Bitcoin, yet I think I'm going to become a millionaire and all this. And I'm like, honestly, due diligence is a must in everything that we do. So I hope that if you're still someone who's investing back home, whatever country you're from, maybe you're living overseas, you've got the dream that all of us still have of moving back home, and you're still investing money. I hope you have done your due diligence and you don't lose money like I did. And you know, sometimes it's okay to do business in the country that you live in. It's not always that business is easier overseas. Sometimes you think the grass is always greener on the other side. Business is always easier to do in Zimbabwe. It's easier to make money in Zimbabwe. It's easier to make, that's what we always tell ourselves. But we also need to open up our eyes and see the opportunities in the countries that we live in. And yes, there might be hurdles to jump and all that, but we need to understand how can business be done, because really, if you really are into business and investing, then you know that it's hard work. I think people sometimes want to invest in Zimbabwe because they want to bypass the hard work route. They want to say, okay, this is the easiest way I can get there. It's easier to do business. There's nothing easy in life. There's nothing that is beneficial that's gonna come easy. So the moment we keep thinking that, oh, it's easy to do business back home, so I'm gonna keep investing because it's easier to go through my cousin, through my sister, through my brother, you're actually not taking responsibility for your own money and your own investments. If you really want to do business, try doing it in your country that you're living in and see how hard it is. And then next time you try and invest overseas, you will look at it like a lot different. But I know, you know, a lot of people have lost money. I know a lot of people have been successful, but a lot of people have lost money, and the main reason people lose money is not exercising due diligence. So that is the life lesson that I've learned. Due diligence, due diligence, due diligence. It is a must. Do your research, know your business, know the ins and outs, and deal with people with knowledge and experience. Partner with people with knowledge and experience, people who have handled those amounts of money before, people who have executed successfully the projects that you are handing over to them to execute. And I think there will be less tears of blood being shed overseas over money lost trying to invest, so we can live the dream that we've always had to move back home. All right, everyone, hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in my next one.